What's up, Builties? The next Built World Cafecito Club meetup is happening June 13th at 9 a.m.-ish. That's Miami time, and you're not going to want to miss this one. We had a great turnout at our first one last month, Ben.
We just blew up Maman, have just crowded all those poor diners in there. Everyone was talking deals while other people were trying to eat breakfast. It was... we had more people than we expected, so it was awesome.
Absolutely. So what's up for this month, Ben?
We're teaming up with Russell Galbett and the team over at Crescent Heights. Going to go get a behind-the-scenes look at the Crescent Seas project and the Gale project. We're meeting them downtown Miami at the Gale Hotel.
Yeah, so complimentary cafecito, real estate power players, and off-market whispers, all before 11 a.m.
Space is limited, so hit up builtworldadvisors.com, check out the blog, and RSVP today.
Built World Cafecito Club, strong coffee, stronger deals.
Let's go. We also got to mention the Built World is hitting the road. We're heading to the ULI Florida Summit on June 9th and 10th. It's going to be at the Hyatt Regency in Coconut Point in Bonita Springs. This is one of the great events for real estate development in the state, where they're going to have over 600 industry leaders there. We'll be there in the mix, doing some breakout sessions, recording some podcasts, kissing babies, shaking hands, talking real estate. So if you guys are going to attend, reach out, let us know. We'd love to connect while we're there. And if you're curious, you can find more info and register for the event at florida.uli.org. So we'll be dropping some content from the summit, for stay tuned. See you guys in Bonita Springs. This episode is brought to you by Built World Advisors. Yeah, that's us. We're not your typical commercial brokerage. We combine deep market knowledge with a media platform that actually connects to people doing deals. The developers, brokers, architects, and attorneys.
And let's not forget the investors, Ben. From warehouses in East Hialeah to off-market gems in Alapata, we help you find value where others aren't looking. If you're tired of waiting for opportunities to land in your inbox, let's talk.
Built World Advisors, real estate for the people who get shit done. You can check us out at builtworldadvisors.com.
Back to the show.
This episode is brought to you by Bureau, our title sponsor. With 8 vibrant locations in Miami's best neighborhoods, Bureau is the perfect co-working place to work, network, and thrive alongside other entrepreneurs, creatives, professionals, and local businesses. Find your space at bureaumiami.com.
Pablo, welcome.
Hi, nice to see you. Nice to get here and try to talk about real estate.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on the podcast. Thanks for reaching out. How did you hear about the podcast?
Well, I listen podcasts so often about real estate. I go through Spotify, and then I like Don Suffer, so I start looking for podcasts about Don Suffer.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I found this podcast.
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh my God, he's drinking vodka.
At 93?
Yeah.
At 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
I need to listen to this. And I loved it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was one of our most listened to podcasts.
That was a fun one, yeah.
That was fun. The guy's a legend.
In his office in Aventura, he was psyched to be drinking at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
I met him when I was 19 years old, starting my career in the real estate industry. He gave me 5 minutes. I don't think he remembered.
Yeah.
But he gave me, oh my God, you're 19 and you're doing real estate? So awesome. Keep going. He gave me 2 free statements, and he's like, he has this mystic about him that that you're talking with somebody that is huge.
Yeah.
And it just helped me to keep pushing at that time.
That's cool.
He's a living legend for sure.
Yeah.
Pablo, how do you pronounce your last name? I would try, but I'm gonna
Barreiro.
Well, Pablo.
You need me to step in there, Ben?
Yeah, I guess the Brazilian.
So we're here with Pablo Barreiro, chairman of FORTEC. Welcome, Pablo.
Hey, we got a cheers.
Yeah, cheers. And we're drinking Negronis, by the way, one of our favorite drinks. Great call, Pablo. Cheers. Cheers. Cool. Well, Pablo, since you're familiar with the format of this podcast, we really want to, get to know you and where you were born, and also a little background about your parents. So if you can give us, where were you born?
So I was born in Argentina.
Okay.
And I came to the United States in 1999. I always loved real estate, but in Argentina, it's tough. When you are going, we are finished high school, you want to find some jobs. The job market is really tough. So I said, it's a good time to go to another country, experience it. And I had the opportunity to come here and work.
So quick
Where-
question though. So you were born in Argentina, where Buenos Aires,
Yes.
and were your parents ever in real estate?
Yes, my father was in real estate in Argentina.
What did he do?
He represented a big brand in gas stations. there.
Okay.
He used to own a couple of them, and then he acted as a broker there. So I was always surrounded by real estate.
Okay. And your mom?
She was doing track and field when she was young.
Oh wow. So you got an athlete in your family.
Yes. My favorite sport is soccer,
Okay.
but she was really good at track and field.
Okay. Was your dad a footballer too, or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. It's in the Argentinian blood.
I guess every family, we're all footballers. I
Yeah.
guess.
So your mom, you said she was in track and field. Was she also involved in real estate?
No.
No. Okay.
No. She was more into track and field, sports, and then stay-at-home mom.
Okay. Any siblings?
2 sisters.
2 sisters. Older, younger?
Younger.
Younger. Okay. Are they in real estate as well, or no?
No.
No. All right. All right. So you grew up. You sort of grew up in a real estate family then. Your dad was a broker. He represented a gas station and was essentially looking for locations for them.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's a gas station brand, a big brand in Argentina.
What's it called?
At that time, it was, I believe, Repsol.
Okay.
So I honestly don't know if they're still in the country or not.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he did that, and they found locations for the brand.
Gotcha.
When you were younger, were you did you have like a lot of jobs or like hustle? Like, were you doing things on the side to make money, or like what were you into when you were younger?
Well, what I did first was in one of the gas stations that my father had at 12. It's different from here, the gas stations. When you pump the gas,
It was full service.
somebody will do
Yeah.
it for you. So I was that guy
Oh, that's
at 12,
awesome. Yeah.
pumping gas to customers that they will come. And, the pumps are different from right now. The technology was completely different. So it was really like we had a bet within all of like the employees that my father had and I, who can get closer to the 0 mark, because in Argentina they say, give me 10 pesos or 20 pesos at that time. And the idea was to get it exactly to that. It was really hard. And we have one guy that never did it. He always go overboard. So that cost, I guess, my father some money. But that was kind of my first job, and I get some tips over that. And I really appreciate the fact that you're doing customer service.
Yeah.
And how important it is to have that in your work, because that gives you humility. You have to perform. You have to be really good at what you're doing, and providing for the services that the customer wants. So I started understanding that 12, that's really important. That's, and when you do it right, they will give you money for it.
Yeah.
Not the 25% tips that now they're asking, in stores.
When you buy a water.
But, it was a tip, and that was a great experience to have.
But that's a great perspective, because I feel like today, especially in Miami, and maybe I'm being a bit of a hater, but that's kind of been lost. Everyone's so focused on the P&L that the guest experience has kind of been put behind. It's kind of like, let's make the most money. And, where the rubber really hits the road is what you said, was that interaction with the customers and providing that experience with the customer.
Well, for me, P&Ls, balance sheet, and financial statements are a story. That's what they are. When you talk to a brand and you're saying, okay, what you're doing, this revenue. Okay, tell me, in our case, we do preschools and schools. Tell me how many students you have. But every student is a story, right? Why that this parent is paying this money to give this, to go to put this kid in this school? Well, for me, that's story. So when I see something, I don't see just numbers, and that's probably my perspective of the customer, because behind that number, there is a story and there is a reason why. So, if it's a failing business, then there is a reason why the customers are not happy with that. And, if you go beyond the numbers and you're seeing where your problems are, at the end of the day, it's going to be a customer service problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I get as a perspective when I'm also seeing the numbers.
Totally, that makes sense. So you had your job at the gas station. You move on to high school. You did high school in Buenos Aires too?
Yes.
And how long were you pumping gas for?
I think it was like 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It was a big gas station. We have VHS to rent in the shop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the movies.
Yeah.
Now you can. Yeah, I mean, you stream it. But at that time it was VHS. So people will come, rent a movie. There is this convenience store, big convenience store. So it was fun.
That's where the money's made.
Yes.
Yeah.
The margins sometimes in gas stations in the gas are very low.
Yep.
But inside they're good.
I had a friend whose family owned a bunch of gas stations growing up, and his dad always said, "We're selling Cokes and smokes." That's where they made all the money.
Yes.
Sodas and cigarettes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you went to high school in Buenos Aires.
Yes.
Did you go to English-speaking high school, or was it strictly Spanish?
So my story is a little bit different. I started when I was in the lower grades, like in elementary school and stuff. I was in a bilingual school.
Okay.
But when I finished high school, I was, believe it or not, there is a club called River Plate, which has a high school. And I always loved the sport. I mean, I love soccer. And I was, playing
football is it pronounced?
I love that you say football. If I can go for football, can I say football? That's
This is
perfect.
Miami, like it's football.
Perfect.
The original football,
The original football.
not that American football.
Not that American bullshit. Huh?
No.
Tell that to a lineman. And
Yeah, right.
but it's a really nice sport. It's a fun sport, American football too. But yeah, so I was a very fan of football, and I played for my club in the lower divisions. So I finished my.
So you
high
played
school
for
career
River Plate?
So
You're actually a legit soccer player, football player.
under 16.
Yeah,
yes,
you're
yes.
pretty good then.
Yeah. Well, maybe I used to be. Really good.
You'll still suit up every once in a while. Or no?
I suit up a lot actually. That's awesome. Oh yeah. So,
Cool.
Felipe's going to invite you out to a weekend now.
Yeah, I play with my kid in their team all the time. We do a lads and dads soccer game, so you have to come on out.
whenever
If
you want.
If you have kids, bring them out.
Yes, I have. Leo is a goalkeeper.
Oh yeah. How old is he?
It's 7 turning 8.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
So
yeah.
he's already in the U8 travel team
Yeah. My son's there. It's terrible, isn't it? Every weekend
every weekend.
traveling.
Traveling. We have the Inter Miami soccer tournament
I know
soon,
that's
right?
coming up in a few
Yes.
weeks. We'll be there.
There. I'm gonna see you, fellas.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, Felipe, ever since we moved into Bureau, my productivity has been through the roof. I mean, I might actually be getting things done for once.
The energy at Bureau just makes work fun. Plus, with 8 locations across South Florida, from South Miami all the way to Hollywood, there's no excuse for not finding a spot to get your shit done, Ben.
And we're not alone. Over 500 local companies call Bureau home. Everything from creative agencies and real estate firms to tech startups, law firms, and media companies. It's a melting pot of brilliant people, and we don't include ourselves in that category.
We definitely don't include ourselves in that category. Bureau really has space for anyone, whether you're flying solo or have a team. There are suites starting at 100 square feet all the way up to 2,000 square feet. They also don't try to lock you into long-term agreements, and everything is month to month.
Let's not forget the important stuff either. The coffee is top tier, staff is incredible, and has a very entrepreneurial vibe. It's not just a workspace. It's a place where work actually gets done.
That's right, Ben. So if you want to level up your workday like we try to do every day, check out Bureau. You might even catch us sipping some espressos between podcast sessions.
Or tequila.
Definitely tequila.
Tell Bureau the Built World sent you, and you'll get 50% off your first month's membership. See you out there. Cheers.
Later.
Cool. And what team does he play for?
Key Biscayne.
Okay. All right.
What about your?
That's where all the good Argentinians live.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Right. Our kids. My son plays for Miami Shores,
Okay,
so we play against each other every once in a while.
that's This year we did but they have. I know that they have a good team too. So
Yeah, we're football here in South Florida, especially the youth league. It's one of the strongest areas in the country to play.
I mean, I went to the soccer tournaments, and some teams are.
They're unbelievable, right?
I mean, they have 8 years. They're 9 years old, and they're playing like competitive soccer at that level, football at that level. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was an okay soccer player, but my son is like exceptionally better than I am. And I mean, it's just incredible what these kids are doing now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The things that I never. I can tell you. Of course, there are great players in Argentina in the under 12, under 13. But really, here in Miami, you see this mix,
Yeah,
and you start to ask yourself, they're at the level of South American football.
you think so, huh?
I started to think so.
Wow,
I mean, I think we're gonna see great players coming from Miami.
wow. I hope so. I hope you're right. That's pretty cool. That's an interesting perspective.
For sure. And now with the new stadium in Inter Miami, there's a lot of like
Yeah.
hype around it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Messi sticking around? I heard he's leaving.
No, I think he extended for.
Yeah?
At least my son saw it on Instagram.
I was gonna say, this is all Instagram news.
YouTube. Yeah, extended for another 2 years. So take that with
All right.
a little caution there.
So we were in high school. You're playing football. Did you finish high school in Buenos Aires?
Yes, I finished high school, and then the decision came to say, okay, I'm staying in Buenos Aires to go to the University of Buenos Aires, or I go to university, in the U.S. So the story is that I did some tours of, if I remember correctly, it was Florida Atlantic University, and FIU. And then I did a tour of the University of Buenos Aires. I'm like saying, no, I'm going to Florida.
What's the Florida connection? Like, what made you go straight to Florida and not anywhere else in the U.S.?
And let's just back it up. I mean, you go to right? And they have a swimming pool in the middle of the campus. I mean, it's another level of crazy, especially in the late 90s here, right? Like, when did you get here?
Well, the story for me, for going to college, it took a little bit more time. So what happened was I needed to do the SATs and all these. Look, I'm in Argentina, I have no idea what is the application process.
All this American bullshit, yeah.
I have no idea. So I sit down, I get here, I said, I want to get into the university. And I thought it was like, okay, I'm just going to register and take classes.
Right.
No, that's not how it works. And they give you, the information. So it took me a little bit longer. I actually started in 2003. But not in I started in St. Thomas University, and the story is because I wanted to still play soccer. And I played for St. Thomas University. I went one day, I did a tryout, and they got me into the team. And I said, that's perfect. I'm going to have education, and I can play soccer. And so I started in St. Thomas University.
Did they hook you up with a scholarship too?
No, at that time, what I did basically a walk-in, so I couldn't. And I played one semester because then Florida Atlantic University, which is in Division I, says, I want you in my team.
Oh, cool.
So I said, okay, I'm going to move from St. Thomas University to FIU. Let's go. So I went to FIU for that purposes, and I broke my tibia on an amateur league. So that's where my, competitive soccer finish at that time.
You broke your tibia playing soccer?
Yeah, but not for the school.
Just practicing, or?
No, playing outside in an amateur league with my friends.
Yeah.
So, I want to play every time. Like, I play like 6 times a week.
The soccer injuries are no joke. It's crazy how many people get just banged up by soccer. It's wild.
Yes, and I learned my lesson there, definitely. And
That's wild.
I said, okay, now. At that time, I was still thinking about soccer, like,
At next level, you wanted to play at a professional level?
I said, I'm Division I. But at that point, when I broke my tibia, I said, I need to rethink this.
Yeah.
And that's where I oriented more to my academics. It says, okay, let's pick the university that is the best, not just the one that I will play for soccer. So I was studying political science and economics. And the number 1 in the nation was University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. At that time, so I apply and I got in.
To Michigan.
To this day, I have no idea how, but they sent me this big envelope and I got there. And then I went there in Michigan. I did a wonderful tour, a wonderful destination. I loved the campus.
What time of year did you go?
That was in June and July.
Oh, yeah.
The best part of the year.
The old bait and switch.
Yeah, the old bait and switch. Or Syracuse caught me on that one, too.
It's like this all the time, right? Yeah.
I showed up there. It was like a beautiful spring day. It was like 70 degrees. I'm like, this place is beautiful.
Yeah.
It sucked, dude, for 4 years.
That's exactly what happened to me when, November came in. And I remember one day, I walking in the street and I said, hey, I don't see the sun. Where is the sun? and somebody on a store told me, well, no, it's not going to be sun until January or February. I don't know where it's going to be sun. So it was an experience there. And then I finally realized, look, I wanted to go to Florida for academics. I need to go back to my roots, understand, that soccer is not going to be my next thing. And I said, I wanted to go to University of Miami. The reason why was there was no soccer program for men in terms of Division I. It's just a club level. So So I said, okay, let's forget about soccer. Let's go back to Florida where I want to be. And then I went back and finished my degree in University of Miami.
So you only did a semester at Michigan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I
Okay.
Or
Once
the
the witch hit, you were like,
I don't
I'm out.
blame you, yeah.
so there's some, but I love the university. I love the campus. I have great experiences on that semester. I met great students.
People are nice.
And the football games are amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I can imagine.
You know, the big house.
It's one of the largest stadiums in college football.
I think it's around more than 110,000.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
ridiculous.
Wow.
The big house is amazing, and the games against Ohio State.
Oh,
Let
yeah.
me tell you, that's another level.
Yeah.
Um,
Too bad your wife is here because or else we'd be talking about all the parties you were at.
I was one semester. There's no enough.
Yeah. You can tell us that.
Okay. So I for me, it was a great school. It was just not what I was really looking forward to stay there for a long time, I guess. So then I came back to Florida and I finished in UM.
And when you were in college, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do, or were you just kind of like, what were you aiming towards anything, or?
So all this time I was doing real estate, except of course for the time that I was in Michigan.
And how are you doing real estate? Like in what way?
Commercial real estate in terms of I got my. So this is the story. So while I was doing college, I was doing. I got my salesperson license in the 2000s, and then in 2001 I got my broker license.
In Florida, or?
In Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was doing commercial real estate. I never do residential. I just love commercial. I love the idea of retail, office buildings.
So-
also run the commercial.
So what, you were brokering deals or were you buying for yourself?
No, brokering deals.
Yeah.
Working for for clients.
So hustling while you part-time, while you're working, while you were in school full-time.
Yes.
I love it.
So so I love soccer. I love work. That was my really my whole life. And then and I always keep doing real estate. And I said, okay, I need to move and I need to do this to make work. And it's, it's a tough life to be a broker. I mean, it.
Yeah.
You have to make deals happen. If you don't make the deal happen, there is zero money in your pocket. So while I'm doing this, I always thinking, I love real estate and how I can get better at real estate. My other really love was politics. That's why I was studying politics, political science, and then economics. So I always said, okay, I want to get into politics maybe, but
politics where, in Argentina or
no,
locally
here in the U.S. So I was doing real estate, trying to make deals happen.
And how are you? Sorry to interrupt, but how are you? You're in college. As a college kid, starting out as a commercial broker is pretty damn hard. Like, what are you making cold calls? Like, were you focused on a certain asset class? Like, how are you generating leads?
I'm doing everything that, I mean, at that time, in the 2000s, you don't have CoStar or you
Right.
don't have all these things like these great CRMs, right? I mean, the first MLS, if I remember correctly, it was still blue. It was really a Windows kind of system, the old version of the Windows system. So, you have to make calls, you have to drive the car, you have to go to sellers, you have to get clients. So I did a year before taking my broker's license. I did a year with a broker. So I learned what she was doing.
She kind of mentored you a little bit.
Correct. And then I said, okay, now I have to do it myself. Now, mind you, I'm a kid. I don't need to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? I just need to start growing and learning the business and making some things work. So I start finding properties. I start calling properties. That was the days that you go and knock the door.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's done anymore.
What kind of properties?
Always was commercial, was retail, could be restaurant, formal restaurants. Or if you see a good location that may be empty, you knock the door. Or if I have a client that says, hey, I want to buy an office building. Okay, I want to look for an office
Sure.
building. So that depends on what clients I had and also what I saw driving. I live in Sunny Isles and Aventura. So my area was kind of that. So I always look, okay, what is the next thing here? And Sunny Isles, got a big transformation at that time.
And that's when you said you met Don.
Correct.
Around
It was-
around that time.
Correct. I think it probably was 2003,
Yeah.
4. So, you're seeing all this transformation. You're seeing these big opportunities. I even remember one time where I think the Formula One boats were being sold in one of the streets there in Aventura, which was now turned down and has 4 buildings on that street.
Mhm.
I think it's 191 Street or 190 Street at 29th Avenue. So I'm seeing all this transformation, right? And there is opportunity there because there is a lot of development, a lot of people coming. Always foreigners come and they want to invest or they want to acquire things. So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm trying to find deals of the clients that I had, that I was, transforming. There's a lot of people coming from Argentina. I was from Argentina, so, some culture says, okay, I can work with this kid. And
Yeah, they relate to you.
So quick question. So most of your buyers were from Argentina and is that correct?
at the beginning, yes. Then with time, it got more to different parts of the in the U.S. and also parts of South America.
Okay, cool.
What was your first big check or your first big deal that you did when you were in college?
My first.
Do you remember?
Let me see. Let me. I'm trying to go back and see which one was it. Well, I remember. Yeah, it was an office. It was a very small office building in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Yeah,
How much was your commission check? Do you remember?
I think it was like 10,000. That was my big check.
Hey, that's exciting.
That's
If you're
yeah.
in college, that's $10,000.
Hell yeah.
I didn't have $10,000 in my bank account.
Especially in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
That's
right.
like 100K today, right?
but I don't remember. I honestly don't remember how much was the total commission. So maybe that was my share.
Right.
So, but we had, for me, it was more about the experience and getting and trying to make deals happen at that time because, like I was saying, you don't need at that time too much money. You just need to, to start learn.
So then you graduated from UM
Yes,
and you graduated with a political science degree?
political science, it's a double major, political science and economics, and then I also did my MBA in UM.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you went from undergraduate straight to graduate school?
I think I took a year.
And what'd you do during that year?
I was still doing real estate. We were, I started to build a lot of relationships. So I had a lot of more work, and that was in 2000. Yeah, I finished my degree in 2011, so I probably started 2009. I think my MBA. So yeah, at that time we were coming out of the recession, 2008, which was a very interesting experience. And, in 2009, 2010, a lot of people start buying again. And we see a lot of these banks or people that just, got these properties very cheap during the recession back from owners in distress, and they want to sell. And you have a lot of opportunity because a lot of capital was coming back to the market. So that's where we also start buying, a lot of things. I even remember a big property in Georgia. I think it was a 336 unit in Georgia for $5,000 a door.
Wow.
So wait, quick question. So you finished undergraduate what year at UM?
2007.
Okay. And so in 2008, you're a graduate student?
I think it was 2009.
Okay. And so it was a 2-year program?
Yes.
And while you're enrolled at UM full-time, are you still brokering deals?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you finish your degree in 2011, more or less.
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, you're still brokering deals, or you're putting deals together for investors as well?
So when I finished my MBA, my idea was to stop finishing brokering deals and putting more deals together with investors. I had a lot of investors that wants to do a lot of things, but they don't have the trust from peer people in the US, how the system works and stuff like that. I met at that time through my wife had a contact on an accounting person. They gave my number, and it was an Ecuadorian group. This Ecuadorian group said, I want to start investing in the US, but we bought some houses, but we want to do more. So that's where I start putting together, and I start putting together that investment for them in the sense of buying office buildings, buying retail spaces. But the thesis was, we need to buy this in distress. They were all vacant, and they need to be very cheap, and we need to add value to it. So my idea was to, at that point, start saying, okay, let's look for added value instead of having something that is just a cheap price, and then we'll see what the market do.
Ben, you know what they say in real estate, if people don't know you, they're not doing business with you.
Exactly. That's why the Built World podcast works with top of mind public relations, because being a best kept secret sure doesn't pay the bills.
Paula Uspa Abbott, the brains behind Top of Mind PR, is a former real estate journalist, so she knows exactly what makes the media pay attention.
And let's be real, getting in the press isn't just about bragging rights. It's about building credibility, landing deals, and making sure the right people know your name.
Whether it's top-tier media coverage, killer storytelling, or just making sure you're the one people think of first, Top of Mind PR has you covered.
Want to stand out? Hit up topofmind-pr.com or email info@topofmind-pr.com.
Because in real estate, if you're not visible, you're invisible.
And we start working with I start working with them, and we put together the group to buy properties in Hollywood, in downtown Hollywood, Florida.
Oh, nice.
And we bought
This is early. This is 2010, 2011.
after the NBA, so it should be 2012, 2013.
So along around Harrison Street in that area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that so just for a little perspective, like Hollywood is between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. And that particular area is where the train station used to be, and so there's a bunch of old historic buildings there. There's a nice street grid down there. There's a main street. So there's some really good bones in downtown Hollywood. So that's where you guys started buying property.
Yes, and it was like you're exactly saying. It's really nice. I mean, if you guys walk in Hollywood Boulevard and Harrison Street, you can see the difference between Hollywood Boulevard and Harrison Street.
Yeah,
it's a completely different street.
it's like suburbia and old school Main Street.
Correct.
Right.
Once you cross the railroad tracks there?
And just right along the railroad tracks, because really all the development that happened throughout Florida occurred along the railroad tracks,
Right.
where there were railroad stations. So Hollywood had a railroad station probably a long time ago. West Palm did, Boca did. You can kind of see where all those train stations are just by the architecture that surrounds those particular like Main Street areas, because it was all walkable, mixed use, and Hollywood is really got a great example of that.
And yes, and I think the idea what we came in, it was very interesting because they were going through a process of what we're going to do with downtown. I mean, there was at the time that I went there was a lot of vacant buildings, and there were a couple of owners that I met that own a lot of properties. But really, we needed at that time, we needed to do more. We needed to improve it and fill it up really. And I said, look, I think this is exactly what we're looking. And we bought a couple of buildings in Harrison Street.
Cool.
And what was your structure with the investment group? Like, how did you, as you're coming in as a broker, you had this idea to buy distressed properties and add value. This is probably 2012, 2013. So the super distress, like buying notes at crazy discounts, is kind of already over. But you got a decent discount. You bought fee title, and I'm curious how you got in with them, because that's a leap a lot of brokers would love to make. How do you go from being a broker to an equity participant?
Correct. So I think that the first thing is that, well, first, of course, you need to do them a deal before asking for the equity. You have to do them a deal that makes sense for them, and they trust you, and you do your great work, right? They have to respect you in that sense. But after that, I think the next step is this. You have an honest conversation with them. I mean, you're bringing a lot of value to their investments. And a lot of investors understand that. And when you start discussing, you're saying, look, my job is not to sell your property only. Because if you are only doing, okay, I find you this asset that is empty for, below the replacement cost square feet price, that's okay. But that's not the entire job. The job is then, once you do it, fix it if you need to be fixed, and then rent it out and had 100% occupancy. That's different from just saying I'm selling you the property.
100%.
So when you explain that and you say this is my business plan and this is what I want to do, I think a lot of investors are really open because they have a lot of benefits too. First of all, they're not, maybe you get the commissions in the purchasing, or maybe you leave it as an equity broker, but then, they don't have to pay you the leasing commission, right? Or maybe they do, but you put it as an equity. Also, you are doing the job. You have skin in the game. you want to do this because at the end you have a benefit. Now, imagine this. They purchase the property, then they have to hire another broker that they don't know to rent the space, which they don't know if they are telling the truth in terms of the price per square feet, rent per square feet, or whatever. And then if they have issues, you have to sign a listing agreement. And if they don't work, you have to get them for 6 months or a year. So you're bringing some benefit to them. And when you start explaining that benefits, all the benefits that they're getting, unless they really want to have everything for them, and that's it, and maybe that's not the client for you, they will understand that you're bringing something to the table.
Is that what you did? You rolled your commissions in as equity, or?
Some of it, I don't did it in the sense of rolling it out. I just said, okay, give me some discount here. So I will not charge you the entire commission here. But then when the exit is, I recover from that. And then for the leasing, it will be a different structure. So you don't roll it out. You just give like a discount, but you are participant at the end.
Got it. So you're kind of incrementally like working your way into the partnership.
Correct. And that shows you also that you're doing your job, because what they want to see is that you also are doing what you're telling that you're going to do.
Yeah.
So that was my strategy in sense of, inserting myself in that. And then after we did a couple of deals that were very successful in terms of returns, basically they trust me and say, okay, now you're going to find me real estate. I'm looking for anything.
And what did you buy in Hollywood, and what value, like what did you do to lease it up?
So
any interesting examples?
Yes. And actually I have one of the sort of our properties. So we buy an office building. I like office buildings a lot.
Still?
I do. And I'm going to tell you why, because maybe my beginning was my story. I think you're always going to need offices in some way, maybe in a different way than the traditional times. But I think it's, my idea at that time was it was a vacant building, completely vacant. There was not a tenant. The seller, who knew the area very well and do many projects, had it for like 3 years. I think they were occupying the first floor. And I said, okay, I buy it. The price was great. We agree on the price. And okay, now the real job starts, filling out the place.
And this is 2011, 2012, right? Because Harrison Street back then was pretty dicey. Like there wasn't much going on there. There was like a restaurant scene sort of starting to happen.
The Japanese restaurant, I think it's still there.
Yeah. And then Mike from Bureau has the office there too.
We did the RFP for that.
Oh, for the Bureau?
Really?
That was another story. I can tell you that story.
That's a beautiful property.
I love them.
That's our favorite Bureau, by the way.
That was a Holocaust museum.
Oh, I didn't
really?
know
I didn't know that.
Yes. So the city had it for a long time, and they did an RFP for that. And we got together to Mike. Mike was visiting one of our properties.
So you know Mike?
I know Mike.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I love what he's doing. I love the brand, and the transformation that he made on that building.
Yeah.
But yeah, we won the RFP for that, and it was, like I said, it was a very interesting story because it was at a Holocaust museum, and they were going to move it, but then now they want to do an RFP, and then we present what we want to do there, which was a bureau, and the city basically, it was a city property, so they sold it to us.
That's awesome.
Cool.
That was more recent though, yeah?
That was, I don't remember, I think it was probably 2016, 2017.
I thought it still feels damn near brand new.
Yeah, well, it took, when it was purchased, it took time to build it out.
Sure.
And it had it was a completely different, I mean, if you see pictures from before.
Oh, I can't imagine.
You will not.
You can see in the floor when you're there, the concrete, like how it's so cut up, what it used to look like.
And the mezzanine, like the second floor, was very small, like you feel so unsafe there. So yeah, it was a great transformation that Mike did. And
but go back to the office building. You were telling me a story about how you got that leased up. There's nobody in there.
So we start and we said, okay, how we work this. We have no tenants, right? So we advertise it a little bit. We receive a couple of calls, and my idea was not to rent it for the market price. My main idea was every person that comes in has to sign a lease. So at that time, I think I remember it was like $17 per square feet or $18 per square feet, the rent. And, there are always people looking for cheap rent. That's reality. I always see it. Especially, it's a good location because you are close to Aventura, you're close to Fort Lauderdale. And, if you're going to pay double what you're paying, maybe you think about being in an empty LV building. So my idea was, okay, somebody comes, I see that, they have a good business, but they want to pay really low, even $8 per square feet. I don't remember what was the first rents there. And we said, don't worry about it. We will do the job for you. We want you to get in. And, people didn't like to be the first ones, but at some point they're saying, well, how that can be bad? I mean, I can pay a really low rent, and then they're going to do all the tenant improvement for me, which for investors is not that use. Normally they will say, okay, I cap at $10 per square feet or $20. No, we're going to give you a good office space. So the first one came in. The first one was the hardest one because it took a lot because it was basically the entire building was empty. And then what we did in the third floor was type of a co-working space. We have small offices of 100 square feet units. And instead of renting the entire third floor to somebody else, we said, okay, let's charge $250 for every space. And we give you Wi-Fi and everything there. And that floor really filled up very, very fast. And then we start renting the first floor, the second floor. And suddenly you realize the only floor that was empty, which was kind of counterintuitive for me, was the first floor looking at outside. That you have the retail spaces. It was never retail spaces, it was more office building. But so we transformed that. We create another door for one of the spaces in the first floor. And that's where that filled up. It took some time. But the entire building, the second and third floor, it probably took us no more than 6 to 8 months. And the idea was just simple as saying, whoever comes in, let them just put an offer of what you will be so you can be here. I just want the first 2 or 3 tenants. Once I have 3 tenants in place, I know people will rent.
And how long were the lease terms? Because at this point, you probably want to put short lease terms on there, right?
We do not more than 3 years.
Yeah.
But for the first 3, we didn't care that was up to 3 years. And some people did just 1 year because remember, they also are testing the building.
Well, it's kind of like a restaurant. Nobody wants to go eat at an empty restaurant. So once you have a few people in there and there's some activity, it kind of builds on itself.
Yes. And we have also the luck that, people were starting to look more in Hollywood because other places were more expensive. So people were coming. And that's also when I met Mike from Bureau, who was looking at one of the floors that was still empty in one, I think it was very early in the process. Then he left. He didn't like the building, the one that we were renting. And then after a couple of years, he was still looking for it, and that's when we find out that this building was up for grabs. So
So for the following whatever, we'll find out how many years you worked with the same investment group, doing the same type of deals, finding properties that were vacant or maybe had gone through a note sale, and you could buy it at a discount and then add some value and lease them up.
Yes. So my idea was always to add value and work these things out. Like I was saying, office building or retail spaces, just rent her out. So what happened was, after many years doing deals in Harrison Street, I had a friend that basically a very close friend that had a birthday party, and I saw a friend of him that I knew he owned a lot of properties in Hollywood too. And I said, give me the phone number of this person. His name is Martin. He's my partner now. And I said, hey, you own a lot of properties. I call Martin. I said, you own a lot of properties. We own a lot of properties. Let's work together to improve Hollywood. After I made that call, 1 or 2 weeks later, the city, one of the commissioners in the city, was wanted to help in the sense of redoing the code of this downtown Hollywood, which is the RAC. So he called for a roundtable, and basically
What
marketing.
year was this?
I believe it was. I'm pretty sure it was prior to the Euro purchase. So probably it's 2016, 2015, maybe 2017. And we were sitting in a round table, all the, I guess, the biggest owners of downtown Hollywood, which they encompass the rack. And I remember, a lot of faces. And then, we're discussing with this commissioner how we can improve the rack. And it was a great experience.
And the rack is basically an overlay of downtown, right? Is that what it is?
Correct.
And so it provides more density there and a little more intensity, right?
Correct. The idea, the commissioner wanted our input just to say, okay, how these these property owners that own the most amount of properties here in downtown are going to feel about what we're doing, and if we wanted, if they want to change something, they should bring it up. If not, we're going to continue with what we're doing. So I think it was a great idea, and the rack, I think, at that time make sense.
Why was it called the rack?
I don't know what it was
It
called.
was like it stands for something. Like where do they have the business improvement district?
Yes,
or
I always knew it as about the rack.
The rack.
I don't know why.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure C stands for code, but
The only reason I know what the rack is because I had a company that I started called Gridix, which is a zoning company, and we did a lot of work with Hollywood.
okay.
And
was it RAC?
it was RAC. I don't know what it stands for anyway either. But we basically digitized their zoning code, and I can say this about Hollywood: like, it's a pretty forward-thinking city. They were willing to like look at how can we make the city better through zoning, right? And so they're on the right path there. They're one of the few cities in South Florida that seems to get that density is not a bad thing. If done, well intentioned. And so kudos to Hollywood for working with the property owners to really try to get downtown to improve, because it's an exceptional location, and Hollywood, and it seems like it's booming right now, Hollywood.
All right, I'm hesitant to even share this next sponsor because honestly, it's going to make our competition even tougher. This is some real insider intel.
Yeah, if you're in commercial real estate and still buried in spreadsheets and busy work, listen up, because CRE Task Wizard is about to change your life. It changed ours.
This isn't some generic virtual assistant service. CRE Task Wizard was founded by former brokers Elijah and Kevin, so they actually get what brokers need.
Which is less admin, more deal making. Your teams handle research, data entry, listing management, lease abstracts, basically all the annoying stuff that eats up your day and nobody likes to do.
Imagine not having to update listings, dig through lease terms ever again. Even cold calling, you can focus on closing deals. They handle the rest.
And the best part, it's efficient, affordable, and built specifically for CRE brokers.
Want to reclaim your time and make more money? Go to CRETaskWizard.com and let the wizard work its magic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me because, like I said, when I got there, it was not like that. And I agree with you. The code is forward thinking. I mean, you have 0 lot lines. You don't have parking requirements up to 3 floors. So there is a lot of things that they did great. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of booming there. I love Mayor Levy. I think he did a great job all these years. And yeah, it's a very interesting city because I think the location is great. I mean, you're very close to the water too.
Do you still own the properties in there?
No, I'm not involved in any property.
In Hollywood, you sold everything.
Everything.
So you bought them, leased them up, sold them.
Yes, and then I moved to what I'm doing now with my partner.
So is that first call to Martin like the beginning of FORTEC?
Yeah. So what happened was we found out that a school was for sale. In Hollywood Boulevard. It was a school that my daughter attended.
Oh, cool.
So I knew it very well.
Preschool or?
Yeah, it was a preschool. So one day I passed by. We were always looking about which property is up for sale. And then I found this property, and I said, look, this is a great property. Let's try to go for it. And we basically put an offer, and they agree on it. Like, we have to negotiate during the day. It was a California broker. At that time, I only did deals in Florida and Georgia. It was my first encounter with a California broker. And they are fast to decide. So you have to go, negotiate really fast because they have other offers. And I understand that. I said, look, if we want to buy it, we need to sign the LOI today. There is no, here in Florida, it could take you more time. Let me put it that way. So we agree on the price on that day, and then we bought that school.
How does a deal like that look? Is it like a triple net deal? Is it like
It was a triple net deal.
Okay.
So when we bought that school, we said, okay, this space seems interesting. I never did schools before, and I said,
And was this a Montessori
Yes.
school? It was Montessori. And what's the name of the school?
it was Guidepost Montessori.
Is that like is it one location, or is there multiple locations? Is this a franchise?
So the brand was it was under as a corporate model, but they had multiple locations across the United States.
Okay.
So
Again, what was the name?
Guidepost.
Gaipa?
Yes.
Okay.
So we bought that one and said, okay, this looks interesting. Let's review a little bit more about what they're doing, about this, what the space is. And I loved it. I mean,
What made you like it? Was it like the return profile, the business itself? Like
well, everything checks in. The return checks in.
what kind of cap rate do you buy a preschool at?
Well, right now they are depending on the brand, because it's like, it's depending on the creditworthiness of the tenant.
Of course.
So it goes could be from 650 up to 750, and maybe sometimes more because of the rates going up. But it used to be that in the good times, when the rates were really low, you can even get 5.9% for a really good tenant. But they were never in the 4, in the 3s, or
Right.
nothing like that. So so what I like was that the return was more in the opportunistic side because of these caps, but it was really a core plus strategy. Why? Because once the schools go there and build their enrollment, which it could take them up to 2 years, generally speaking, they will stay there for many years. They sign long leases. They go from 10 years to 20 years with many options. And some of them, they have been there for more than 10 years, and they want to stay there. They will sign you, maybe they will ask you for tenant improvement allowance, but they will sign you for another 15, because once they create that enrollment, it's just a stabilized business.
Mm-hmm.
The risky part, I guess, is the first 2 years when they're trying to stabilize the business. So I said, okay, it's great returns. Nobody's doing it. I talk to everybody, and nobody's saying, oh yeah, we do a lot of schools and a lot of preschools. I mean, you guys can tell me if you hear that a lot.
I mean, listen, one of the reasons why you're on this podcast is because we haven't heard of anyone do this. And we're like, all right, this sounds interesting. Like, this is a niche. Like,
Yeah.
let's learn a little bit more about this, like for our own self-interest, right, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. I have no idea about the preschool business, so it's super interesting.
And look, it's, for me, was that the return. Nobody's doing it. It was a niche that was open field. And then one other thing is that when you finish something, you want to see what's going on there, right? I went to many schools that we finished, and I see kids playing, kids smiling, parents coming. It's a good feeling. I mean, some people will put that as an additional thing. I think it's important to, whatever you're building, it gives you a sense of, that it gives you happiness also, right?
Absolutely.
So that's also part of it. And
That's why Ben wants to own strip clubs.
It warms my heart.
it warms his heart. So I think for us, for me was like, oh my God, nobody's doing it. So let me find out more. And we right now we started with that particular deal.
When was that deal?
Again, I think it was 2019 or
Okay.
2018.
So that was your first deal in 2018, 2019.
Correct.
First preschool deal.
First preschool.
Correct. Was with my partner, but my company was not yet open. So we did it like as a type of joint venture. And we said, you know what, let's do a company together. Let's partner up. Let's open FORTEC. And that, when we opened FORTEC, this is the crazy part. We opened on, I think it's May or June 2020.
Nice.
Perfect timing.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Right,
timing.
right in time for the pandemic.
Yes. So, we're under contract to buy 2 properties, one in Jacksonville and one in Palm Beach.
So quick question about those properties. There were also schools that you were looking to buy?
So what happened was there were 2 properties. They were basically, one was a former preschool that a tenant wanted to, us to basically rebuild, improve, and give it to them for a long-term lease. It was empty. And the other one was a lady that was selling her preschool. So she wanted just to get rid of the, she was to retire.
She's in the business and the real estate.
Yes.
Got it.
Well, but the business really didn't have too much value at that time. I think she closed the preschool. She didn't leave any kids.
Okay.
But she wanted to just get out of. She was retiring, in Palm Beach. So we put the contract prior to where we opened the company, but the idea was to do, in the time that we closed it, when we already had the company open, which was June 2020. But of course, when we are under contract, because this takes a long process, because we have to do a lot of review of the entitlement periods, approvals of a school license, which is tough. And while we're doing all of that, of course, the pandemic hits, right? And the first question that my partner and I were saying is this a sustainable business during the pandemic?
Yeah, we should have just bought a bunch of iPads.
Yeah, well, so, we're going through this process, and I don't remember exactly when or how prior to the closing was. I remember one of the things that I really remember, this state was one of the countries that opened, you can do stuff, I guess, opens first, or one of the first that opens to do stuff. So, sometime Mass was open, and we went to church with my wife. And I remember, the priest is talking, and what I remember is there was a bunch of kids, a lot of kids. And it was not it was not an Easter mass, or it was just maybe the first time that everyone was getting together in Florida in a mass. So I remember being there, and the priest suddenly, stops and says, I have to ask a question to the kids. And, it's just the kids, not the parents. Who wants to go back to school? And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, what? He's asking about a school right now?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And every single kid raised their hand. And at that time, I knew this is a great business.
Yeah, that's like a sign from the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just, the kids wants to go to school. It's not the parents. The kids wants to socialize.
Yeah.
So that means that even if you create technology, you do AI, and I know, a lot of people is going to say, AI, and maybe you can homeschool, which is perfectly fine. A lot of kids want to socialize with their peers, and they want to go to school because of that, not because of the academics. So for me, that was a big sign of the brick and mortar too. I love the academics part of it, but but also the part that the kids wants to go. So I said, okay, this is a good business.
Ben, you and I are all about PropTech. And if there's one tool we absolutely cannot live without for our commercial real estate brokerage business at Gridline Properties, it's Vista.
Absolutely. Vista is incredible. We use it every single day. And we're always wondering, how do they do this? Every evening we get an email from them with real-time closed transactions. No more waiting around for months for the property appraiser to finally update.
Yeah, whether you're doing industrial, retail, office, land deals, they have every closed transactions. And it's not just the speed, Ben. The details are on point. Seller and buyer info, contact details, phone numbers, emails, everything is accurate.
It's hands down our top prospecting tool to farm for warehouse deals in Hialeah. Vista keeps us one step ahead always. It's also the best way to search for comps when putting together opinions of values for clients.
Head on over to Vista.com and use code BuiltWorld and get 30 days free access today. VIZZDA.com.
Then, we bought that 2 schools. And another thing that appears a couple of months down the road was...
Quick question on the 2 schools, though. Did you already have... Were you going to put the same Montessori school franchise in those locations? Or how were you going to...
Yes, so all the properties that we do prior to purchase, we do two things that are essential that's what we promise to all of our investors. The first thing is we got entitlement approvals. We need to be able to operate a preschool or a school, depending on what we're doing there. And when I say entitlement approvals, it's not just the use as a zoning. You need to have the kids that the tenants, the amount of kids that the tenants wants for that location. So for them, in order to work the rent that they're willing to pay, they need certain amount of kids. And in order to do that, we need to get the approval from the city. And that's one thing that we need to get. The other thing is we need to have a lease signed with an operator. So we're not going to close these properties unless we have a lease signed with the operators.
And how many operators do you work with?
We work with all of the top, like I'm sure we did already 10 we did deals with, but we talk with all of them. With the top 50 we talk.
And so there are 50 operators of preschool franchises basically in the US is what you're saying.
They're more than that,
Yeah.
but there is a list that comes every year that they call the top 50 preschool brands. And I can tell you, if I go down the road, I don't know if a lot of people would be familiar. I'm sure that everybody will be familiar, for example, with KinderCare that went public a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I didn't realize that there was like a whole preschool franchise model out there. But
I see them around here a little bit, but yeah.
But I didn't realize it was like at a national level.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
You know.
So here in Florida, you have, for example, probably you heard about them, is the Learning Experience.
Is that the one on Coral? Do they have one on Coral Way, like on the way to Key Biscayne? Like if you're going on Coral Way, take a left on 25th Road, like you're going to go across the bridge to Key Biscayne. It's there on the right, across the street from Nordica.
No,
What's that one called?
no,
Do you know
I
that
think maybe it's KLA, that one, or maybe.
Okay, I don't remember.
So the learning experience, I don't think here is in Miami, but they have a couple of locations more north. They're a very big company. They have more than 300 schools, schools across the United States. But you have a couple. You have KinderCare, which, like I said, did an APO. The second biggest brand is the Learning Care Group, which is the brands that they have. Maybe you heard about them, is La Petite Academy. So and you can go down the road. There's Cadence. I mean, I can give you the list.
But you guys work with about 10 of them.
We work with 10, or we work already with 10 out of them. But we have contact with all of them, and we're trying to work with more of them. The thing also comes to what we can pencil, right? Some of these brands have locations that we cannot pencil, or sometimes, we couldn't find a fit in terms of the negotiation. Sometimes they have a better deal with another guy. So, but yeah, we try to work with all of them. Our idea is to go and help them expand as they want to do it.
I want to go back to the very first one in Hollywood. How did you capitalize that deal? Did you guys come in as like on the sponsorship side and you put in some as the GP and you raised LP money to do the deal, or how does?
Yeah, we have investors, so we have LPs that trust us in the sense of we did things with them before preschools. So
it's kind of what you did before. You kind of built that trust with this LP group, and you kind of parlayed that into the strategy.
Correct. It was not right now. We to all of our investors, we're saying we're doing only preschools. That's what and schools. But before was more. This is another property in Hollywood,
right?
And it's an office building. Well, now it's a preschool with a great lease.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we do it. That first one.
Right.
Now it's different. Now we are doing things different. We are saying, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the brand. We did a big, we are doing a big underwrite of the fundamentals of the real estate. We know the business now enough to say, to review also financials or pro forma from operators and understand if they're good financials or,
right. If those margins make sense or not, you can, yeah.
Correct. So now we understand it. And look, we had to go through situations, bad situations that we learn. So we have, the good thing is we did so far 30 properties. We exit on 15.
Wow.
And all the ones that we exit, we did good for our investors. But we recently had one that the tenant couldn't pay anymore, so we needed to move ahead and change it for another tenant. We're working on doing that.
So, quick question about your site selection for these. Are you mostly acquiring properties that had existing preschools in it, or are you also looking at properties that you think might be a good fit? And what is your what do you tend to look for? Is it freestanding buildings? What are the demographics? I think parking is probably a big thing for you. Circulation as well, drop-offs. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. So first and foremost, we have a system of points. So because we know what most of the tenants are looking for, what we do is we have a system of points where we analyze all of these things that you're saying. And generally speaking, what we look, we can do greenfield projects, we can do brownfield projects. Hopefully we will get former daycares and we don't have to do too much work, but we can start. We're doing one in Connecticut right now.
You guys are doing ground up as well?
Yes.
Oh,
We're
okay.
finishing up right now in Simsbury, Connecticut. We are about to get the CO. So yes, we do ground up construction, but what we're looking is really the demographics. Generally speaking, most of these operators that we work with, they are in the terms of they're private, so they're more the high end type of demographics. They will go as low probably as $70,000 in terms of the average earning per and then we're looking for 1.5 to 2 acres of land, because that's where we know we can fit what we need to fit in order to do the preschool. And most of the operator likes buildings that are from 8,000 to 12,000 square feet building.
8,000 to
12,000. Yes, most of them. There are some of them that likes more, and some of them that will go lower than that. But that's most of the operators will go for what I'm.
And what's the average number of students in each one of these schools?
Between 150 to 200.
And the ages?
It goes from basically 6 months to 6 years old.
Okay.
This is like the rapid fire round.
Yeah.
That you keep ripping. You out?
I love it. I think I'm done.
What was it like to go to other states? Like, that's not easy, right? To expand outside of Florida.
No, and you have to do a lot of things. So.
I see you in your portfolio. You have stuff in Virginia, Massachusetts, Georgia, Washington. I think you have.
We did one in Washington State.
Wow.
Yes. So yes,
it's navigating different rules and regulations, and
then working with contractors. I mean, that's challenging.
So one thing that I didn't mention, I did a law degree, and I took the Florida bar.
I was gonna bring that up. I saw in your bio you're an attorney. We didn't even get to that point.
Yes.
Yeah. So when did you go to law school, and when did you meet your better half as well?
Okay. So my much better half, I met on 2006, and we were married since 2008.
Okay.
And I went to law school. I finished law school in 2017. So I'm thinking 2014 I started. And my idea was always to improve in terms of investing in real estate and understanding real estate. And I always thought that knowing the law and how I can interpret the law is something that is very important in order to do deals and invest.
Or was it just to like sue people?
Sorry.
My wife's an attorney, and it's like my favorite trump card. It's like, oh, like my wife's an attorney. I got unlimited free legal power at my disposal.
Well, yeah. The thing with being a lawyer, and by the way, when I took my law degree, and I still have clients that told me, no, you cannot leave me for what you're doing now. You still need to be my counsel. And I said, it's so I did litigation at one point. So now, a lot of things goes wrong sometimes. But when you experience litigation and somebody, is trying to negotiate using litigation, you're like, no,
dude, yeah.
It's,
yeah.
And also it helps in terms of understanding the timing of if something goes wrong. So if somebody does something wrong to us, and I'm all open to negotiate and resolve the situation, right? But there are some people that they don't want to resolve it. They just want to, do something wrong and just get away so nobody catch them. We're gonna, for me, sue them is just call a lawyer and say, this is what we are seeing. I understand how they talk. I can talk. I can relate to them, and we will enforce that. It gives you a different perspective, just being, in the business part of it. So it gives you, I guess, in that sense, it gives you some advantage. So that's what I want to do in terms of law school and understanding litigation and how it works. So for me, the one thing that is important when we go to other states is to go to local attorneys. And when I talk to them, I feel, is this the right culture that we want when we are talking to these attorneys? Can they resolve what we need to do? And that makes it really easy. We have a counsel here in Florida. But then she will talk to other attorneys in different states, and we have great relationship with them because it's kind of it make it easier to understand what they're saying and how they're,
You speak the same language.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's how you were able to do deals in other states, is just find local law firms that understand navigating the complexities of the rules and regulations for preschools in that state.
Yeah, well, I also, we trust of course the operators in terms of
Right.
Doing the business and getting the license and that kind of thing.
And how do you source deals? Like, where do those deals come from?
So we have a team. We have a acquisitions team that is basically managed by our VP of real estate, and basically we have a lot of brokers across the United States that we make good relationship with. We're meeting them, a lot of them, next week in Las Vegas in the ICSC.
Oh yeah.
So that's how you source. I mean, really how you source deals when you work across states is you have to have great relationship with these brokers that know what you're looking for, and they will provide us with deal. But sometimes tenants will do too. Sometimes the tenant will tell us, "Hey, I have a deal for you. Can you develop for us where you are at?" And of course, gladly will. That's really easy. We will just take it.
Right, of course. Especially if you know them, like them, trust them. I mean, it's such a cool strategy. Like, hearing you talk about it, you said it's looked at like, I forget what you said, but it's really a core plus strategy. And it's kind of like what buying, I guess, Walgreens or TD Banks used to be back in the day, but those got priced out. Like the cap rates, like you said, got so compressed, but this was something that was a little bit more overlooked. You can get at good cap rates, but you have strong long-term triple net tenants to distribute that stable cash flow. So the return profile is much better with the predictability of having a nice triple net tenant in there.
Exactly. That's I think why we really like this niche, because you're buying an opportunistic return when you're on a core plus, and that's why you're seeing now a lot of private equity going into the business of preschool.
I bet.
And now you're seeing developers saying, okay, maybe this is something that I'm missing. I'm seeing more developers than before. Let me put it that way. I don't know if I've seen
More
a lot
developers than before investing in this.
Correct. Yeah.
This vertical.
They want to do something because right now doing, look, I love QSRs and restaurants and Walgreens.
What's QSR?
The quick service
Oh,
restaurants.
yeah.
So,
like Chipotle and stuff like that.
But the thing is, the cap rates are compressed.
Totally.
So
and they're riskier businesses. This is much more stable.
Well, and one thing that is important, a lot of the QSRs are franchisee models. A lot of the companies that we're working with, it's not a franchisee that is renting to us.
It's the corporate.
It's a corporate, which is much more safer, in my opinion, than having a franchisee. Of course, you have franchisee that have maybe 15 locations, 6 locations, and they're doing great. And they're good. But sometimes in our case, when we go to the franchisee model, and we will look into them. Sometimes we have franchisees that is their first preschool, and you're like, do I want to do that one? Maybe when they have 3.
Right.
So that's also something that I found very interesting in the sense of of this space.
Have you ever looked into doing the older schools? Like, because I feel like Miami has such a lack of schools right now with all the growth that we've seen in the city. Like, schools are crazy to get into in elementary school and high school. Or are you guys sticking strictly to Montessori or preschools?
No, first of all, we're not doing only Montessori. We're
Okay,
doing
it's just any kind of
and-
early learning.
correct. It's preschools and yeah, I mean, some of them are Montessori, but a lot of them are not.
Got it.
But in terms of the K-12 or the K-5s, we're looking right now into it. But it's different and it's sometimes more costly. So there is a different variables. So we were looking at K-12, right? And we talked to different brands. And that's also, that operation is more fragmented. And what happened is, in order to do a ground up in a K-12, they need like 10, 15 acres of land.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense.
Now, I talked to the city of Miami. They were very helpful because they know they want schools. Even the mayor wants more schools, and they were very helpful. They sent us emails with information about all the properties in terms of that they were zoned as schools. But the reality is, how many properties that had 10 to 15 acres in Miami?
No, you gotta go to the Everglades
So
or Homestead.
correct, but by the time you go there, the driving is just too much. So there is an issue there. We're now looking with some brands to do K5s, which they look for type of the same space, maybe 2 acres, maybe 3 acres. And that, I think, is something that we can do more. But we try to do the K12, but you need so much land.
Sounds like that has to almost be like a public-private partnership for that to work. What's going on, Builties? Ben and Felipe here. I wanted to cut in and tell you guys what we're working on. Believe it or not, podcasting is not our full-time gig. We're commercial brokers here at Gridline Properties, focused on industrial. And we've really identified the submarkets of East Hialeah, Opelika, and Golden Glades.
Yeah, we're big believers in those areas. The industrial warehouse space has grown tremendously in the last few years, particularly out west. The developers have been building product in the 100,000 square foot range. These areas, particularly Opelika, East Hialeah, and Golden Glades, have smaller warehouses, and we think those are going to do extremely well in the next 10, 20, 30 years. There's always going to be a need for small businesses and smaller spaces close to the urban cores, so we're extremely laser focused on these areas. So if you have a warehouse in the area or looking to buy or lease, or if we can help you lease or sell your property, reach out to us.
Yeah, we're just seeing a lot of value in that area. Everyone's getting priced out of Doral, getting priced out of Little River and Wynwood, and Hialeah is kind of the last frontier. And it's a wild west out there. So come on for a ride with us. Hit us up.
And I think also the developers, the big developers here, is that know we need schools. Part of their project should include schools, because that will help them in order to sell apartments if that's what they want to do, or improve just the retail space, because you have, in a K-12, you have maybe 3,000 kids, 2,500 kids. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot.
Going around. We even, at one point, we tried to do a K-12. It was a Sears for sale up north. And we tried to do that because they had like I think it was 200,000 square feet building with a lot of land.
Wow, that's a big Sears.
Yes. But then the operations of the school was tough and we couldn't make it happen.
Are there any particular markets that you guys are more focused on nationally? Where do you see the most growth for what you guys are doing?
So there is a term that we use basically, which is daycare deserts, which basically means that there are areas that has 3 times the demand than supply. So basically, 3 kids per one capacity at our school. So I will say this: there is a lot of daycare deserts across the country, and we find out, even we're doing one in Hallandale, and in Hallandale I think it's above 2 the demand for the supply. So when I mean supply, is the quantity of seats that all the preschools in that area are offering. So there's big opportunities almost everywhere.
Yeah.
Because but for example, Texas, of course, is big. Florida is big. The Sun Belt in general is big because there's a lot of construction going on. So where We're right now in contract to do in South Carolina and North Carolina. So, but I can tell you everywhere. We just did in Kentucky, in Wisconsin, in Philadelphia, in New Jersey. So everywhere you look, it's really there is demand for it, and it's not enough supply.
Sounds like a great business model.
Yeah, it's like parents are like they're willing to spend money on education.
You saying parents are suckers?
Yeah, they are, especially for their kids, right?
Totally.
And like sports, like the amount of money we throw at both like school and like sports, like you don't even think about it.
Nope.
It's just like, all right, take my money.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll
Yeah.
pay.
Well, look at IMG.
Yeah.
How the investment. Yes, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. It's a big thing. It's a big business. I think right now the market is around the entire childcare market is around $61-62 billion.
What market did you call it?
The
Childcare.
Oh, okay, childcare. Okay.
Yeah. And in 2034, they are saying it's going to be 95 billion.
Mm.
It's 50% increase.
That's great. It's a great space to be in.
That's so. I mean, the story checks. Now, things could happen. Everything is with a risk, of course. But when we're seeing all of this, we're saying, why we're going to do other things that everybody's doing. Cap is compressing, a lot of competition. So here we are. For example, for me, when we go and we talk to a developer saying, you can build all, I don't care about how many houses. I'm not competition for you. I just want a space. Give me 1.5, 2 acres of land. And I will give you the preschool for all your 2,000 homes that you want to do. So they can send their kids to a preschool within the same community. So we are a complement. We're
Totally.
that's why we like this space.
So what's the future for FORTEC? You go public and do a REIT, or what are we? How are we cashing in?
How are we cashing in?
I'm along for the ride at this point. We're an hour and 10 in. I'm invested. I want to know.
Well, for us, the future really is about helping expanding these brands. Really, we really take that into account. We really love that, we're building these preschools across the United States. I mean, we have a phrase internally, which is, building the future of America. But really, we're building for these kids that, they are going to be, some of them are going to be maybe in Congress, maybe a president. I don't know. But we create, I was seeing numbers the other day. We did schools, we create thousands, well, of course, the operators do the jobs, but this building had created thousands of jobs in communities. This is amazing. So for us, is keep doing more. We really want to expand aggressively. We're opening a fund. So that's, we want to do.
How much are you guys raising?
So we have thresholds, but our idea is up to $100 million.
Okay.
So
With equity.
Yes.
So you can leverage that into what, 500 million of deals?
We are thinking between 300, but we don't want to go too overboard with the leverage. So
See, that's the American thinking in me right there. Yeah.
So excess.
Over leverage.
Go big home or go home, right?
It's the Trump formula, right? Worry about the workouts when they come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, but that depends also on the leverage terms, right? Always.
Totally,
Because sometimes I like the idea of also using all the equity, but then returns are not as high. So So that's our idea, because we really want to expand aggressively.
Very cool. Well, Pablo, it's super fun to get to know you.
We actually learned something today, man.
Dude, I learned a ton.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
This is great.
We're going to keep our eye out for preschool sites.
Yeah, right?
For sure.
Please.
Absolutely.
And thank you for having me. This is amazing, and I really enjoyed the Negroni. It's really good.
Hey, he used to be a bartender.
That's the fact.
I figured that's my second job, right?
Dude, you kill it every time.
Thank you, man.
Dude,
Appreciate that.
I just chugged too. It was great. But if any of our listeners are have any sites or deals that might make sense, like hit us up. We'll connect you with Pablo, or hit up Pablo directly. FORTEC, FORTECnow.com,
Yes.
and they can probably find your contact information there.
Yeah, sure. And my email, by the way, I can give my email. It's pablo@fortecnow.com.
Okay.
And I will definitely direct you to our VP of real estate, who can tell you everything about it and what we're looking for.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, Pablo.
Yeah, Pablo, this is awesome.
Thank you very much, guys.
I really
course.
appreciate it. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Cheers.